The homeless have no right to turn every park and sidewalk into a place for them to squat and do drugs.
That was Trump 2 years ago in a campaign video addressing homelessness. Today, he put those words to paper.
Hello, what's up guys? I hope you guys are doing super fine because I do. I'm gonna be a host today. My name is Danny. The topic we're gonna talk today is about homelessness in liberal cities and how Donald Trump has signed an executive order that this population of homeless people are actually removed in the streets. Well, this has actually sparked a lot of controversy online, and especially there has been a significant amount of TikTok debates about the issue, some in favor of it and some against it. So in the quest to end crimes and disorder in American streets, Donald Trump actually signed these executive orders. Some feel like this is not the way to approach the issue and there might be alternatives. Let's first listen to people's opinions and then thereafter we're gonna come back and dissect it further.
So Trump just signed an executive order to remove homeless people from the streets. And the way that they're going about it, if you're homeless, you might be heading to psych ward. The official name is Ending Crime and Disorder on American Streets. This order gives the green light to force homeless people into treatment or institutions, even if they say no. That's called civil commitment. And if you're unfamiliar with that, that's when the government can legally lock you up for your own good. You know, like the thing they used to do back in the 1950s until people realized that it was widely unethical. And one of the reasons Trump says he's doing this is because people are just tired of stepping over tents, and that it gives a bad image when he's trying to sign million, billion, or even trillion-dollar deals. This executive order encourages cities to sweep homeless encampments. It punishes harm reduction programs like safe injection sites. It pulls funding from Housing First initiatives, one of the few things that has proven to actually work. This executive order does not provide new housing. It does not expand shelters. It does not fund programs for mental health issues. And people are going to say, well, this is an executive order to restore order and get people the help that they need. But in reality, what this is doing is just making poverty invisible to the public eye. Sell it as public safety, but the root issue is still there.
So what do you think of this? President Trump just signed a new executive order. His plan is to involuntarily commit homeless with mental illness to institutions. So basically, people are going to be sent to treatment centers without their consent. Trump comments that this is going to restore public order. I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on that. The criteria will be those who are struggling with mental illness, who are a threat to others or in fact to themselves. Listen, I raised a son who struggled with mental illness, anxiety, and bouts of depression. By no means would he ever been homeless, but someone forcing me to put him into an institution, it would not be acceptable. But on the other hand, if it could save the lives of those who have no other options, then I'm all for it. But I really want to know what you think.
Sound the alarm. Trump just signed an executive order that lets the government round up unhoused people, clear encampments by force, and institutionalize them without consent. This is not a policy. It's a purge. Let's talk about it. But first, tap the link tree at the top of my page. You'll find my Patreon and Substack there, where I break down this story in full and go even deeper into what's unfolding. If you want the full picture, that's where to get it. Cities are being pressured to arrest the unhoused, sweep public spaces, and lock people away under the label of mental illness or addiction. And if they don't comply, Trump cuts their federal funding. Let's be clear. This is straight out of Hitler's playbook. Target the vulnerable, strip their rights, lock them up, disappear them. He's defunding programs that actually work, like Housing First and harm reduction, and replacing them with mass institutionalization and forced commitment. No housing, no help, just punishment. And who's being targeted? The disabled, the mentally ill, survivors of trauma, people already abandoned by every system we have. Now Trump wants to criminalize them for existing. This isn't about public safety. It's not about compassion. It's about control. It's about removing people from public view, erasing them. We are watching the U.S. government lay the groundwork for internment without trial under the banner of order. If you ever said this couldn't happen here, it's happening.
On July 24, 2025, President Donald Trump signed a sweeping executive order titled Ending Crime and Disorder on American Streets. That makes it easier for cities and states to involuntarily remove homeless people from public spaces. And one would wonder, what does the order do? Well, it authorizes forced relocation of homeless individuals into treatment centers or institutional settings, even without their consent. It directs the Attorney General to reverse legal precedents that limit cities' ability to clear encampments. It also prioritizes federal grants for cities that enforce bans on urban camping, loitering, and squatting. Another thing is that it redirects funding away from housing first programs and towards sobriety-based treatment. It also prohibits federal support for harm reduction programs like clean needle exchanges. Why would Trump target liberal cities? Well, the order doesn't name specific cities. It aligns with Trump's long-standing criticism of Democratic-led urban areas like San Francisco, LA, Portland, places with high homelessness rates and progressive policies. Of course, the order follows a Supreme Court ruling allowing cities to fine or jail people for sleeping outdoors, even if no shelter is available. Trump's administration argues that this will restore public safety, but critics say that it will criminalize poverty and mental illness. There has been a pushback and controversies to this matter as we have listened. Advocates like the National Homelessness Law Center call the move dangerous and counterproductive. It warns that it will increase homelessness and also divert resources from housing solutions. Also, the mental health experts argue that post-treatment is unethical and ineffective, especially without stable housing. So I was just wondering, like, to me, if you actually capture someone from the street and force them to undergo some treatment, sort of like when someone is facing addiction and they have to go to rehabilitation facilities and then they have to come back and the conditions have not changed. Maybe they went into drugs, or maybe they went homeless because they were actually finding it hard, like the economic times, of course. They are finding it hard to find decent jobs to sustain themselves. Maybe they were into depression and things like that, and now they have gone to rehabilitation. And we all know that there is chances that when one has gone to the first stage of rehabilitation, then discharged, there is a high chance that that person will actually go back to their old ways, and also making them go back to rehabilitation centers again the second time. And it might be just a cycle of the same. Even removing the homeless people in the streets might actually come to that. I hope that this order might actually just consider such issues and not just thinking that everybody in the streets are there because of drugs.
Trump just signed a truly terrifying executive order to bring back forced institutionalization. Yep, you heard that right. It's truly terrifying and no one is talking about it. I'm Eliza Orland's career public defender for 15 years in Manhattan, and we have to talk about the executive order that they're calling Ending Crime and Disorder on America's Streets. This order specifically targets unhoused people, people with mental illnesses, and people who use drugs. It calls the hundreds of thousands of people experiencing homelessness on a single night endemic vagrancy, and frames them as threats to public safety. Trump is using fear to justify locking them away under what he calls civil commitment, aka forced confinement. Here's what the order actually does. First, it directs the Attorney General to overturn federal and state court decisions that protect people from involuntary confinement, essentially gutting due process rights that took decades to secure. Second, it ends housing first policies that have actually worked to reduce homelessness. Instead, it forces people to accept treatment whether they want it or not as a condition of receiving federal housing aid. Third, it prioritizes federal grants for states that enforce bans on urban camping, loitering, and squatting, aka criminalizing the simple act of existing without a shelter. Fourth, it expands civil commitment to anyone deemed a danger to themselves or others, or who cannot care for themselves. Language so vague, it could quite literally apply to anyone experiencing a crisis. This is not about safety or compassion. The order literally says the goal is to protect public safety by removing people from public view. This is about control, criminalization, and disappearing poverty, not solving it. This is mass incarceration 2.0, only now it's dressed up in fake compassion and medical language. We've seen this before. In the era of massive state hospitals, warehousing, and forced sterilization, and we know how this ends. As a career public defender, I've seen what happens when governments use the courts to cage, confine, and criminalize instead of care. If you're as horrified as I am, share this video and follow me. If you're interested, I can break down every section of this executive order piece by piece, because this isn't just cruel, this is calculated, and we need to understand exactly what we're fighting against.
While you were distracted by Jeffrey Epstein and Hunter Biden and South Park, Donald Trump signed an executive order ending homelessness in the United States. Now, this sounds like a good idea, but this order is not building housing and it's not offering mental health help. It is actually making it against the law for people to live outside, and it's forcing people with mental health issues to be hospitalized. Right now in the United States, there are over 653,000 homeless people. It's the highest number ever recorded in history. The cities with the highest homelessness count are places like New York, LA, San Francisco, Seattle, and Phoenix. California stands to lose over $683 million in funding to help combat homelessness if we don't comply. Donald Trump's order says that cities need to ban camping outside, ban living outside, stop harm reduction services, and basically lock people up if they have mental health issues and they will not comply. From the years 2023 to 2025, unhoused people dropped 9.5% here in Los Angeles. And the amount of homeless people living on the actual streets dropped 17.5%. Love it or hate it, the state of California has spent $40 billion dealing with the homeless crisis, and that is why our numbers are going down. We have programs like Project Home Key, we have mental health treatment, and we have Care Court, which is where if you are a mentally ill person, somebody in your family, legal guardian, somebody from a public official can go with you to court and they help design a treatment plan for you. We also have grants for safe parking, tiny homes, and rapid rehousing. And we just have the newly voter-approved Prop 1, which expands psychiatric housing. So what do you think, TikTok? Do you think that Donald Trump's executive order is going to help us, or do you think it's going to hurt us?
So just as homelessness has reached an all-time record high, Donald Trump has signed an executive order making it illegal to be homeless, making it a criminal activity so the authorities can pick you up and stick you in an institution. And that's what you're going to hear on the news. But the part that you're not going to hear is homelessness has doubled in the last 4 years. Homelessness has went up 18% in 2023 alone. There are people that are holding 2 jobs and can't afford a house because it costs $1 million for a 1,500 square foot house in California. There are veterans that can't get a job because they're handicapped, they're crippled, and nobody will hire them. You're not going to hear about the fact that the homeless population is aging and they're elderly and they can't get jobs or they're too sick to hold a job. You're not going to hear about that. You're not going to hear about the fact that they're homeless is because America has gotten unaffordable. You're just going to hear about the fact that they need an institution, that there's something wrong with them, they're sick in the head. You're not going to hear about the fact that they fell on hard times. And once you fall on hard times, it just gets worse. Because your credit will go to shit and people won't even rent you a damn house if you get on your fucking feet. You're not going to hear about it. We got a problem in America, and we need to fix it.
Finally, someone is stepping up to try to do something about the homeless crisis that we have currently going on here in America. Right now in America, there are over 770,000 individuals that are homeless, people that are living on the streets. The cities with the largest homeless population are New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, and Seattle. President Trump has signed an executive order today titled Ending Crime and Disorder on American Streets, authorizing federal agencies to provide local governments with extra assistance if they will remove homeless people off of their streets, putting people with mental issues and addictions in long-term institutional settings. President Trump is trying to do something to clean up American streets. He's saying we need law and order back in our streets. If you go to any big cities, you will see the amount of homeless people. They are everywhere, and people are strung out on drugs. It is very hard to see because these are human beings and they need help. President Trump says we are going to try to help these people, put them in institutional settings, give them help, to give them hope in life, to get them off of our streets, and most importantly, to make our streets safe again. Many Democrats will say President Trump is kidnapping people off the streets, but he's actually trying to help people. Let me know your thoughts on this one.
Guys, it's no doubt that the Trump's executive order is going to shake things up. And what resistance is brewing beneath the surface? Well, the federal funding fallout. That is the issue that so many people are actually highlighting. Cities that enforce bans on urban camping, loitering, and squatting are now prioritized for federal grants. Also, there are programs like Housing First, which focuses on stable shelter before treatment, which are being defunded in favor of sobriety-based models. There's also harm reduction efforts like clean needle exchanges, which are cut off from federal support despite evidence that they reduce overdoses. This shift means that cities that don't comply may lose millions in funding for housing, mental health, and addiction services. While local resistance and legal pushback are in force, California Governor Gavin Newsom called the order headline chasing and warned it lacks funding for treatment facilities. The ACLU and National Homelessness Law Center argue that the order is unconstitutional, unethical, and likely to increase homelessness. Other legal experts expect new lawsuits challenging forced institutionalization and the reversal of consent decrees that protect unhoused people. The Supreme Court's role in this matter has been really significant. The order builds on a June 2025 Supreme Court ruling that allows cities to fine or jail people for sleeping outside. This ruling overturned previous protection and opened the door for more aggressive enforcement. This gives limelight to Trump's administration, and also it's like an okay for them to go and pick people away from the streets and force them to be institutionalized. So what's next? This isn't just a policy shift, as we know. It's a philosophical pivot. Trump's administration is framing homelessness as a public safety crisis, not a housing or health issue. That framing could reshape how cities approach poverty, addiction, and mental illness for years to come. Obviously, this ties into Medicaid cuts, the dismantling of federal homelessness councils, or how cities like Portland and San Francisco are responding on the ground. There is a lot that is unfolding, and cities like Portland and San Francisco are responding to Trump's executive order and what resistance looks like on the ground. In San Francisco, the mayor Daniel Lurie has already banned RV encampment and pushed for shelter acceptance, but he is not on board with forced institutionalization. Advocates like Randy Shaw from the Tenderloin Housing Clinic say that the city lacks the resources to place everyone into treatment, especially after Medicaid cuts from Trump's mega bill. The city's approach focuses on voluntary housing and care, not criminalization. Critics argue that Trump's order is just a headline grab that mimics California existing efforts, but without funding or nuance. For Portland, legal caution and local autonomy is prioritized, where Portland has already faced lawsuit over encampment sweeps, so officials are treading carefully. The city is reviewing the order's legality, especially around civil commitment without consent, which could violate Oregon's mental health laws. Local nonprofits warn that defunding harm reduction programs would worsen the fentanyl crisis, which has hit Portland very hard. Well, the broader impact for this issue is that Trump's order dismantled the U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness, removing a key federal coordinator for housing first strategies. Cities that don't comply with the order risk losing federal grants, but many are choosing to fight back, citing ethical and legal concerns. So this is a two-way thing. While these very cities that are being targeted by this executive order are resisting, they also wish to enforce some of the contents of the order, like for instance trying to see into it that these people who are homeless can pick themselves up and restore their lives and look forward to living a good life being away from the streets. They are highly against people being institutionalized forcefully. It should be someone's consent to be taken to sobriety centers, especially those people who are not struggling with drugs issues, people who are just out there because of economic issues. But for those who are heavily on drugs, maybe that could be grounds for it. Maybe it could help. I'm gonna follow on this issue and see how it's gonna unfold. It's an interesting one, and definitely this is not going to be the last time I'm gonna talk about this. So make sure you stick around because there's gonna be a lot that is gonna come about. I don't know what you guys do think. Please don't shy away from sharing your opinions and thoughts about this whole issue. My comment section are open for this. It will be really helpful. And also, don't forget to check the original creators. Their username have been embedded in the stage videos as always. Go onto their TikToks, like, follow for this channel, a huge thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notification. And with that guys, let me meet you in the next one. Peace out.